Okay. The breaking news this yesterday was about the superintendent of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system, and he's had a very rocky road over this past 2 years. Coming in, his first year was in the middle of the year. He was struck with the pandemic and all of that, and they've had to do a lot of pivoting. So I'm just going to open it up and see. You can just raise your hand if you want to say something. I know that the school board members are meeting this morning and they're not on here, which is fine. I'm sure that they didn't want to speak to that, but or they're not going to speak to it right now. But we definitely going to have them speaking to this when this is all over. But we do have Miss Carlene Avery, and she is a employee of the school system and very involved with the community. Would you like to say something, Miss Avery?
Thank you, Mary. I would like to listen this morning. I have my pen and pad right here beside me because, when you say breaking news and they say separation was the best path forward, I would like to make sure we have conversation with the school board and with the community as to what is the cause. I'm not here to say one way or the other. I'm here to I want to listen. I do want to say that everyone knew what Mr. Winston's credentials were when he was given the opportunity to serve us. They knew what his credentials were. They knew what his credentials were when they extended his contract for 3 years. So I'm curious as to the cause. And right now, I think that our school system, we're in a situation where we need to start talking about moving forward because our kids are in a crisis.
Okay. Um, let's see. Do I see any hands? Cedric, is your hand up? Samantha,
Yes,
is your
ma'am.
hand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Cedric, and then Samantha and Yvette.
For over 2 years, um,
Oh, wait a minute. Let me stop you for a minute. Please make your comment brief. Um, no more than 1 minute.
right, for over 2 years, Commissioner Lee led the way on facilitating a meeting with the school board with um, Ernest Winston, and every time we met, every month, I would ask him to work with Arthur Griffin. I would ask him to work with James Pewsley, individuals who had successful track records, and he allowed his staff, instead of allowing the professionals, the people that had proven track records in this city, and he wouldn't bring them in and work with them. And I just think that it's time for a new direction because we need somebody that understands it and that has a proven track record in solving these problems we're facing.
Thank you. Samantha, did you have your hand up? Okay, her hand must still be up. Yvette.
Morning, and thank you for the opportunity to say something. This like blew up yesterday in my text messaging and my social media went off the chain. But I will say this. They need to pay him his money. I think that was the reason why he wouldn't resign is because they have a contract, or at least my understanding is they have a contract. He signed a contract, extended the contract to him, and they refused to pay him what was in the contract when they've, done so previously with other superintendents that they've let go. But I also think that CMS has gotten too large and complicated to be run by one entity. And when you have a school board that does not want to govern collectively, they don't want to even take advice or information from the community. We saw that in trying to work with the Board of County Commission. And they specifically said that they did not want to be governed or told what to do by the Board of County Commission. So, they're only accountable to voters. So voters need to pay attention. And then secondly, I think that we need to look at a more collective, unified way of governing the school board. Maybe have more than one superintendent. I know we have different learning communities, but maybe it's time to look at a paradigm shift. And I know that there are other large school districts that are getting it right. We need to look at those examples.
Thank you. Thank you. Arthur Griffin, I think your hand is up.
Yes, ma'am. There's probably nothing you can say that won't be misconstrued, but I would certainly agree with Ms. Canty. The school board knew exactly what they were getting when they hired Ernest. I feel sorry for Ernest, to be honest. And I might lose my commission race, but I'll go on record to say the school board should be fired. They knew exactly what they were doing. And if you go back to April 30th, 2021, and I have a copy of the clip, if anybody texts me, I'll send it to you. When asked what % of your time you spend on student achievement, they said from 0 to 5%. That's the governing body. We spent 0, 1%, each person answered that question, up to a maximum of 5% on student achievement. I hope the public spends their time and effort and emotions on what the hell is going to happen with our children and not about these adults. The adult thing will be over in a matter of 1 or 2 votes, but we need to start focusing on the children and teachers in these classrooms and look for some accountability. So that's my 2 cents worth. And I hope that whatever discussion comes from the Tuesday morning breakfast and the community at large, we go back to what's happening to those babies in the classrooms and the support for the classroom teachers, because we can't waste another year, folk. We've wasted too much time already. And whatever happens today at 12:30, the next question should be, how are we going to get well for all of our kids, black, brown, white, green, rich ones and poor ones, because we're losing too many kids to charters and private schools. This community has more capacity to help our babies, and we need to start saying, whoever sits in that seat, man, woman, child, or baby, it's what's happening to kids in the classroom each and every day. That's my 2 cents worth, Tuesday morning breakfast, and that's from the heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you know, there is a school board race coming up, and I believe that that's in the fall. So these are things to consider. Okay, would anyone else have anything to say? Any comment? I don't see any. Oh, Dante, I see your hand up, but maybe you are not with us. Okay, anybody else want to say anything? Miss Avery, did you get some notes there?
Mary, I received some great notes, but again, I think it's very important, as I think Arthur stated it very well. We've wasted too much time. And the question is, how are we going to move forward? How are we going to get well? Because every day, I think, you know, it's very important. You don't have a lot of questions, which to me is a little unfortunate, because community engagement in this process is going to be very, very important as we move forward.
Okay, Tim, did you have
Mary,
something?
pardon me.
I think I
Yeah,
got Tim and then Garcia.
I'll say this briefly. I don't have any insider information, but I suspect that the failure to adequately address those sexual assault concerns, those Title IX concerns that initially started with some former students at Myers Park High School, and we saw in other schools that there was a belief that sexual assaults were occurring and weren't being adequately investigated. And I think that's going to play a big role as we learn more later in terms of what's going on. But that's just my sense. I'm not portraying to break any news here.
Okay, and you know, all of that I think has something to do with it. Garcia.
Good morning, everyone. I want to make it very brief. I don't know a lot of statistics, and I thank Arthur for sharing what he do know. I would like to know if Arthur or anyone can give us some type of data regarding the votes of the individual for the past 2 years. You know, which way was some of the individual school board representatives, you know, were they in favor of that? And when it comes to that 0 to 5%, you know, who was trying to speak out but were outvoted and that we may not know of? I hope that we can find that out, because if not, I'm with Arthur. Everybody need to go replace the whole board. You know, this is our city. It is dangerous. While y'all sleeping at night, working with CMPD, the sheriff office, and other agencies, we'll call our organization, and it's hard and it's very emotional to go and have to deal with rape cases of teenagers from the age of 12 to 17 that's in the school system. And not only that, that the gang increase in the school system that y'all don't know about, that's been kept on the wraps. And we did our best to report it in the best way possible without getting the proper help. And it's been going on for a while. So I agree with something have to be done immediately.
Thank you.
Mary?
Thank you. Jackie, your hand is up, and then Yvonne.
Yes, I just want to remind us that school board primary is in the end of July.
Okay, that's very important. Yvonne?
Thank you. I don't want to end this conversation because this is a good conversation. I would like to add that I think we need to replace the school board, not the heads, the superintendents, because they have made a racket of replacing superintendents, and all of the poor people sat on that school board. So we just need to change all of them and start anew. But I do want to tell you about the virtual nonpartisan political forum tonight that's been held at 6:30, and we will cover the judges, the North Carolina Senate, and the North Carolina House candidates tonight. This is the first of 3 forums that will take place that have been sponsored by Friendship Church, Antioch Baptist Church, St. Paul, the League of Women Voters, the Marcus of North Carolina. And I tried to put it in the chat. I think at the end, I put thanks at the end of the link. Please take that thanks off, and then if you can register today for that, okay?
Okay, thank you. But now, Yvonne, I'm going to get on you because you made an announcement, and I didn't want you to do that.
Oh, I thought that this was time for the announcement.
No. We're talking about the school system, but thank you for your...
I apologize. Okay.
That's okay. Did I see any other hands? Because I did want to say something myself. In talking with school board members and the community at large, and actually I spent 33 years in the school system. I was a teacher and a curriculum specialist in the school system. So I had an opportunity to visit most schools when I was working on the middle and high school curriculum team. And I think the one thing that our school board will not address is what's going on in the classroom. Arthur talked about the academic achievement, and we know that Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools is a member of the, what is it, Arthur, the Great City School, the Council of Great City Schools, the council, and it's a national organization. And the one thing that being a member of the Council of Great City Schools is that you have a qualified teacher in every classroom. Now, I have mentioned this to multiple board members, and they all say the same thing. They don't want to do that. They don't want to move teachers. They don't want to, I mean, it's okay to put a high school graduate at West Charlotte teaching math or teaching science. You know, when those kids are a substitute teacher and other schools are fully staffed, we can spread some of the strength around. We can spread that around. You know, every school needs to have those qualified teachers. And I think that we can, but they don't want to do that. They say that they're going to leave. They'll leave. They will leave. And I said, you know, you're a teacher. You are a qualified teacher. You have experience. And just because you are needed in an area that is lacking of a chemistry teacher or calculus teacher, you mean that you will leave the school system and you're not committed to the children in the school system as a teacher? Just certain schools you're committed to, certain children you're committed to. I think we need to look at that. And I think we do, and they need to address that, but they are afraid. It's all about votes. They are afraid they're going to get voted out of their district because they're going to move teachers. And I think that we got to look at what's going on in that classroom. Who is teaching in that classroom? You have a low achieving school, and you have high school graduates in there, and you're compensating them at $150 a day to be there. They make more than substitutes. Okay, so that's just my 2 cents worth. Okay, and we do have an election coming up. Anybody else?
I got a question, Ms. Mary.
Mm-hmm.
For so many experts like yourself, Mr. Griffin, people who've been in the school system for years, where do you think, 2 questions, where do you think the divide lies? And also, what does North Carolina being a Dillon's Rule state how does that apply with just some of the turmoil that we face as a school system?
Well, I think I'll take it first, and then Arthur can take it. I think the one thing that has really affected, it's just like when we talk about affordable housing and all of that, like Braxton was talking about, how you need to have a mixture of people in a school. Our schools are very segregated. They're very segregated, not only by race, but by economics. You have schools that are totally Title I schools, the entire school. And then you have schools that on the other spectrum, there's no middle ground in the school system anymore. And I think that kind of reflects the communities. Arthur, did you have any words of wisdom on that one?
This is North Carolina. So to expect the state government to do all it can do for all the children is a pipe dream. So you're going to have to do the best you can with what you got. In African American history, we've always made a way out of no way. Accountable governance is the best solution from my perspective, and that's what I want to bring to the Board of County Commission, is being effective and efficient with the resources that you have at hand. You're never going to have all the money that you need to do all the things that you need to do. But I grew up at a time when we did the best we could do, but we had a plan. We had people who were committed to doing all that they can do. There's not enough time, Winston, to thoroughly answer your question. But when I became superintendent, we put measurable objectives in the white superintendent's contract named Eric Smith. And when he left, those same measurable objectives were put into James Pugh's contract. So from day one, there was an expectation of what the superintendent was supposed to do and deliver. That hasn't occurred here in Mecklenburg County with a number of superintendents. So as I said earlier, the Board of Education knew what they were getting when they hired them. They did not put measurable objectives in his contract. I've tried to share with you people electronically, but can't do it. A video clip where the school board members answered from 0 to 5% time spent on student achievement. We have to elect people who number one, not only just want children to learn, but demonstrate for those students as much as they can, students that are learning and the students that are not learning, and what strategies and efforts are being employed to help those that are not learning at the level that they should be. We lack accountable governance across the board, and that is, on day one, this is your position. On day two, how did that position change or improve? We just have to go back to that. And when I chaired the school board, the county of Mecklenburg asked me for a plan. And we had to forecast each year what we thought with the balanced scorecard, the performance of students would be the following year after we got the budget. That hasn't occurred in a number of years. Louise Woods is on this call. She can speak to the balanced scorecard just as well as I could, where we tried to do as best job we could around it. So Louise, I don't want to be the black voice of this thing. If you can talk, share with this crowd what we did with the balanced scorecard in trying to deal with equity.
Okay, Louise, you're on. Oh, yeah. Okay. You're on mute. You're on mute, Louise. You're on mute. Okay, you're still on mute.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now this morning it's the,
And I've got a computer problem and I can't pull you back up. And so I don't know how to get off of mute.
We can hear you. We can hear
Oh,
you.
can you? Okay. I can't see you right now and I'm very sorry.
Okay, that's okay. We can see you.
Okay, good. Well, I think what you said is fantastic, honestly. I think what Arthur said, the accountability, at least where the superintendent knows what we're holding them responsible for, is extremely important. And then you can measure by those goals. I do agree with that. I think some of the numbers that are used sometimes are misleading, and that goes into another whole discussion. But one of the key thing is what you mentioned is teachers and getting experienced, successful teachers in all schools. So to me, the most important thing I look at is teacher retention, how we're going to retain teachers, good teachers, and and the pipeline. And I do think the board is responsible for that, but a great deal of that responsibility comes from the state. And while, as Arthur said, we cannot control what the state does, we were fortunate when we were on the board, the state, actually we had a Democratic legislature and did get some strong help from the state. Not all we wanted and needed, but we got some. I believe you have the information about the League of Women Voters. We're not supposed to make announcements. I won't. But I think if this is our issue, as long as we can't get enough experienced, successful teachers, it will be like in Solomon's case, the person splitting the baby. And what we need to do is to be positive and find ways to create an environment in our classroom so that our teachers can teach and so that we can keep our teachers in CMS and so that we can attract other teachers. That has to do with the state, that has to do with the board policy, and that has to do with leadership that says we can be the best, we will be the best. That has to do with the county commission that says we're going to work with you, we are going to have the highest salary. In other words, the board has to have measurable goals, but those goals can't only be output. There has to be some clarity about what's being done to reach those goals. That's input in terms of staffing. And if you don't have the staffing, the rest of it is out the window. So anyway, I think there's much more to be done. I'm glad I'm not on the board right now with this challenge. I honestly feel for the board. I think we would have to look individually about who should or shouldn't be replaced. I do think the board has tried to do some things, some underpinning things, but something's broken and we've all got to work together to fix it.
Okay, and I do want to clarify one thing that I said, because when I talk to board members, they do talk about the national teacher shortage. There's a teacher shortage in the entire United States. But what I'm saying is that we have enough expertise here in Charlotte that we can do some rearranging so that every school has some, you know. So that's what I'm saying. So I really don't want to, I think to say that there's a teacher shortage nationally is only an excuse. Okay, it's only an excuse because we have the manpower here in Charlotte to move some people around, but we don't have the guts to do it. Okay, Laura McClady and Carlenia.
Can I just?
Okay, I just
before
wanted
Laura.
to say what I keep hearing and what I feel, what I understand is that we keep hearing the word accountability. And it has not happened in Charlotte. We form all types of groups and organizations, but we don't have any group or organization that's holding any of our elected officials accountable for anything. So accountability is a word that we throw out a lot. We are familiar with what it's all about, but no one is actually in a position, or no group is in a position to hold our elected officials, or those that even come on to Tuesday morning breakfast and make statements or promises, holding them accountable. So until we can have something in place, or some group or someone in place to hold all of these people accountable, it's going to continue, and they're going to be ineffective in what they're doing, and they're going to be dishonest about what they're saying until that happens. So that's where we need to move. We need to move towards having some group or someone holding all of these talkers or speakers accountable. We only have a few people that know what the voting records are of our elected officials. Some people just, most people don't know what the voting records are. So we're not even doing that, but we need to come up with some way, or some group, or some organization that will be responsible for holding everybody accountable for what they say they're going to do.
Okay, thank you.
With
Carlenia?
You know what? I couldn't have said it any better, Laura. And I think a few weeks ago, Arthur Griffin said that we need to have a billboard or something on Beatties Ford Road or wherever that says, "What have you done?" And my thing is, where is the report card? And letting him go today, whether he resigns or whether he is fired, we need to understand that we're not going to resolve the issue, because it's a trickle-down effect. The concerns will continue because we do not have any measurable goals. We do not have a plan. Arthur, where is the plan? The plan that was asked for, was it ever received? Was it ever given?
I spoke to the county manager last week or 2 weeks ago. They still do not have a plan in terms of moving forward. Here's a solution. There's a lot of complaints and a lot of naysayers. Here's a positive point that everybody on this call should participate in. The Mayor's Equity Program has $250 million. A large portion of that's going over to Johnson C. Smith. If you want to talk about raising teachers, raise your own. Bring back Johnson C. Smith Teacher Education Program and support that program in such a way that we start growing our own diverse teaching force here in Mecklenburg County. There are lots of solutions out there, but somebody got to be bold enough to stand up and move in the right direction. That's not just a short-term solution, but long-term. Johnson C. Smith had a teacher education program. It reduced that program. Let's try to incentivize that program at revitalize that program at Johnson C. Smith and put some incentives to it. If you graduate from Johnson C. Smith, your student loans are paid off automatically when you come into Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, and we can be supportive of it. There are multiple ways that we can address it, but we need to put leadership in place that's about solutions and not just this conversation stuff that we do all the time. That's all I'm going to say.
Can I
Arthur,
just follow
was
up on
not,
what Arthur, I'm sorry, can I just follow up on what?
Wait a minute. I want to recognize Charlene. Her hand has been up.
Sorry.
And then Dr. Yo.
Absolutely. So, Ms. Laura and Ms. Carlenia, I wanted to make sure that we do understand there is a solution to accountability. I used to be the chair of the African American Caucus's elected official accountability committee, and we created a scorecard that would put all of our issues and concerns into one place and hold all of our elected officials accountable. That was one of the main reasons why the scorecard was created, because we're not holding the ones that are elected. We vote the people in, but we're not looking behind the people to see if we're to see if they're even doing what we ask of them. So please, even with this Tuesday morning forum, get with the African American Caucus and join together. It's about collaboration and partnering so that we all can do the same thing at the same time, holding these elected officials accountable and following up. The whole thing is to follow through with everything. And so we have a scorecard. You can add to the scorecard, update the scorecard, but it is important that we just collaborate to make sure that scorecard is in front of these elected officials consistently. I just wanted to say
Thank you,
that. Thank you,
Dr.
Ms. Mary.
Yo.
Thank you, Miss Mary. I've heard all the various comments, and I truly believe they are so necessary and needed in regards to a plan moving forward and what we need to do. As an employee of CMS, as a parent, as a primary stakeholder, I believe that at this time, parents need to really take an active role and understand what it is that they need to do. Parents in every area need to step up and let it be known that they play a crucial role in the education of their children. Now is the time. We can't wait until tomorrow. We can no longer drop our children off and leave it up to the school system. It is about the parents being able to come together collectively and letting the school system know, letting us know that they are very much intentional, authentic, and involved when it comes to their children and or child. And so with everything else that has been shared, it is a time to start saying enough is enough. What are we going to do to move the dial forward? Our children have come out of we're almost out of it, a situation where they have been disengaged for nearly 2 years. And there's a time now that we should come together to understand how can we re-engage those students? How can we re-engage the families, those that have been suffering through the majority of this pandemic? What is it that we need to do? And so our voices, and I say our because I'm a parent as well, just like others that are dealing with what's happening, I'm dealing with it as well. And so what is it that we can come together and do now? It is no longer time to keep skipping around and pointing the finger, but we need to hold individuals accountable, as someone shared earlier, and we need to come together and let it be known that we are a part of the process. We love our children. We know that it's affecting all right now, and we need to do something. And it's not, the children are in crisis, but my God, it looks like the adults and the board is in crisis more than anything else. So how can we develop a plan of action to move forward?
Thank you. Thank you for speaking for the community and for the parents, because they are a part of this equation. It's not just teachers, it's not just school board, but it's community and it's parents also, because they are the first teachers and caregivers of their children. And so they need to take some responsibility also. Let's see, did Yvette Townsend, you are on mute. Yvette, you're on mute. Okay, we can't get Yvette. Did anyone else have anything?
Excuse me, Ms. Johnson. Yes, Mary, I did. I've had my hand up for quite some time. If I may have a moment. This is SY, Mason Watson.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's
yes,
all right.
I see your hand now.
That's all right. Thank you so much. I can't disagree with much of what I've already heard. I'm a teacher's kid. I have many educators in my family at all levels. I'm a parent of a student who is currently in CMS. And all of the reported reasons leading up to what we are going to bear witness to today, they were in place before Superintendent Winston was even hired. Mm-hmm. We have to be honest. It was there. The pandemic merely exacerbated what we were already experiencing. And there have been efforts to raise the awareness, raise the antenna, efforts made at school board meetings. I have witnessed many of you at school board meetings speaking about the dire straits that our children are in, particularly the students, the Black and brown students that make up the majority of the student population in CMS. And it's almost as though it's been falling on deaf ears. So Dr. Yo's plea for parents is something that many of us have been asking for. We need to coalesce, that we've got all of this in common. All of the Black students in CMS do not live in West Charlotte. And I'm not saying that to be derogatory, but we are everywhere in this county. We need to be working together. We might not all have the same exact issues, but we have more in common with one another than we do differences. And East and West needs to band together to have a collective voice to hold these elected officials accountable. It is about our children. It is really about our children. And if we don't wake up to that fact, I don't even want to consider what it's going to be like. If I'm advocating for my child, that means that I'm also advocating for the other children in the village. So we have to take a stand and do something to make sure that the children are not overlooked, because this is about them.
Yes, thank you so much. I mean, that is everybody. I see Miss Tammy Johnson on here. I'm not going to ask you to speak, Tammy, but I just happen to know that she is one parent who has been by her child's side from kindergarten all the way through college. She's a college graduate now, but I remember when she was just a little one. And so she's been a very active parent, and I do want to recognize her for that. Okay. I think that now, Yvette, you're back, but you were on mute. And so did you have anything? Okay, now.
Yeah, I wasn't on mute. My internet went out, unfortunately.
Okay.
I was struggling to get it back on. But
Okay.
just 2 points. Number, I agree with Arthur wholeheartedly about having that educator pipeline to get teachers back up. But Johnson C. Smith University doesn't even have an educator program right now. They haven't had one in a few years since Dr. Gage passed away. But I am going to be the new Foundation Relations Director at Johnson C. Smith, and that is one of the program ideas that I have to bring back. Secondly, with regard to parents, this is why I say that we need interconnectivity with our government agencies, because we're going to have to parent other children in order to help this along. We have parents that are working 2 jobs to be able to keep a roof over children's heads, our families' heads, so they can't actively engage. And I know some people think that's a cop-out, but I've seen it. It's real. I was a substitute teacher in the system. And the things that if these kids are worried about where they're going to do homework when they get home because they don't have a home or they're hungry, there's no way that they're going to focus on education. So parents are overwhelmed, children are overwhelmed. We're going to have to bring that village back and work as a community to help our children. So that means that, maybe the neighbor is going to have to, in the community, get together, have all the little kids that are not doing well academically, help them along. But we need some partnerships to get that going.
And Yvette, that used to be the norm in the African American community, because we all lived together, whether you were a doctor, a lawyer, a janitor, or construction worker, and we all helped each other in the community. And that's really sad that doesn't happen anymore.
Let me ask you this, Ms. Mary. And I hope I'm not sounding naive, but going to school in Charlotte throughout the 90s, hasn't that always been a factor? Low parent participation. What is the divide? I guess the last 10 to 15 years that has created a cycle of superintendents.
Well, when you say low participation, you're talking about from the parents or the community?
From
Well,
the parents and the community.
Yeah, well, actually, the parents were involved. I don't think that we had low participation. Now, when you mean were they in the schools, I don't know, because what is it that we really want from parents? Do we want them just to walk into school and help staple papers? Or do we want them to work with their child at home, to help their child do their homework? What is it that we want from parents? You got to think about that. We want them to work with their child at home to make sure they do their homework, make sure they go to bed on time, make sure they have breakfast. Those are the kind of things that we really need from parents, as opposed to, I'm not against parent volunteers in schools at all. I'm not. I'm just saying that parents have participated by doing, your parents participated, didn't they? They did everything they could do for you, and they provided you with a home and everything and sent you to college and all of that. What I'm gonna have to do, is already 10:21. We have gone way, 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 way past where we do, but this was a needed conversation, and it's not over. This conversation is not over, because this is the time for us to speak up. I'm gonna get you, Arthur. I'm gonna get you. This
Steve put my video up, so it's up so everybody can see it. Somewhere Steve has put the video up, so you all can see what the board members' answers were.
%. So what we need to know is, what is the total percent of the board's time in the last 4 months that was spent on student outcomes? We'll start with Carol. Good answer. John?
I'm down to 1.
1% on student outcomes? 0.
That's 1.
All right. 5. Big spender.
2.
All right.
I went to 5.
5.
3. I said 2.
And the big goose egg.
I feel sorry for Ernest, as I said earlier. But as everyone said, these are our babies. Let's figure out a way how to take care of all our babies, and let's come together as a community. Please, I'm begging you, because these are our babies.
We got to do it. We have to do it. Okay, I am going to close this, because we have been on here for 2 hours now. And I want to thank those of you, those elected officials, and Patrick, your candidate, and Matt, and I know I'm missing some people, and I hate to start calling names, but I want to thank all of you.
Good morning, Miss Mary. I'm on here.
Who are we talking about? Who are we talking
Kim
about?
Ratliff.
Oh, Kim. Okay, hi. Kim is here representing Alma Adams, Representative Congresswoman Alma Adams. Thank you so much. But this has been a great conversation. And we're not gonna put a period on this. We're gonna put a comma, because we are gonna come back and talk about this some more. We don't need to have the school board members sitting here and we're asking them questions, because we know how they're going to answer. What we need is to continue our conversation and what we are going to do about it. Remember what we are going to do, because we have the power. We have the power to do it.